for compositing images. I know Ryan did a little thing a couple months ago on layers and masking. Compositing images is really all just layers and masking and just kind of getting into some fine details and some blending. So I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen to jump into one and show you how it's done. All right, does everybody have the screen?
Yes.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. All right, cool. So this is, I think it was the one I entered in wildlife. And so over here on the right over here, these are all of the layers that are in there. But there's all kinds of different things you can do with compositing. I think the hardest part is figuring out an idea and what you want to do, because there's just so much you can do. If you've ever like just Googled surreal composite photography and like some of the crazy cool stuff that people have come up with. So sometimes I think that's just the hardest part, is coming up with an idea. But, you know, don't bog yourself down with those details at the beginning. Just come up with kind of like a general idea and then just jump in and start playing around and see what happens. Like, for instance, I know this one, I was just kind of thinking, I had all of these great zoo pictures, but like with each animal, kind of, you could tell it was a zoo, and like the background just wasn't something that I loved for each animal, but I had all these great animal pictures I wanted to use. So I was like, well, let me just find a little scene here to put them in. So I'm gonna show you over here on Photoshop. If you just click on these little eyeballs here, it takes away each layer so you can see kind of the build. So I'm just going to start at the very beginning and kind of go through really kind of how easy it is once you get into it. It's time consuming, especially when you get into the details, but I love doing it. I think it's so fun, and some of the stuff you can come up with is just incredible. All right, so this is the beginning of what my picture started as, and this is just the background layer that kind of serves as, yeah, the main background. If you want the main background just to be a solid color, you can start with a solid color and kind of build from that. Then anywhere that you don't have an image like taking up space on that background is going to be that color that shows through. So I started here with the background. Then I decided to put in some mountains. And I think some little, yeah, some fog came with that too. So to do that, you're going to have, I'm not sure which one of these up here is that picture. Let's see, not that one. There it is. So to actually move this picture.
You need to share again. You
what?
unshared. You unshared.
Oh, my bad. Better?
Yes.
All right. So this is the mountain picture that got put right here. So that's kind of the mountain. And remember, it started out as that one. And then I got the mountain in there. So to get the mountain over there, the camera's in the way. Here it is. You open up, say I have both pictures open in Photoshop. Here's where I started. This one was originally just called like new or whatever that one was called. Open up this one over here and you click on these little arrows here. It's your move tool. So you click on that and now you can just move this And I would put it, hang on. Did it unshare again?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm just going to click right here on this picture, put it up here on this one, bring it down. Yes. And there's where my mountains now came in over here onto this picture. Then if you use Control T, that means transform. You can also go to Edit Free Transform. That's the long way to do it. Control T is a shortcut. Then you can just start resizing it, rotating it, kind of placing it where you want to. And if you change the opacity of this layer, like this, you can kind of see the background layer behind it in order to like figure out how you want to place it. Is everybody following so far? Am I going too fast or not explaining it well enough or anything?
That's good.
All right.
Yep.
Okay. So I'm just I'm taking this one away now. See, it's just made a new layer down here where I put it. So if I just right click right here where it made my new layer, I don't want it, so I'm just going to delete it. Now it's gone. So the next layer that I brought in was, this was, again, it's actually the same as the background itself, just with, I think I was trying to change some of the perspective to give it more depth of field. And it has a little bit of fog in it, it looks like. There's that one. Next one I brought in was my water. Because I knew I wanted to incorporate some animal reflections. I had a picture of the giraffe with his legs spread open and his head was down. And I was like, oh, it looks like he's drinking. And then I found the zebra that looked like it was drinking too. So I was like, all right, cool. I'm going to put him at a watering hole. And then I knew I wanted to get some reflections in there somehow. So I found a picture that actually had reflections in the water already so that I could mimic that. And I think with this one, so when I brought this one in, once you get it in here, however you want it, then this is where you go to, this is a mask right here, this little white box. Down here on your tools, if you just say add a mask, it's going to add you a mask here. What that is going to do is you can take out parts of the picture and kind of blend them together, but it's all reversible. If you make a mistake and you don't like how you painted it out, it's all reversible on a mask. You're not actually changing the image itself. You're just changing what is masked on the image. So what's either showing or isn't showing. So if you click on your mask here, and then we do our little paintbrush tool. I always like to start with my brush kind of big, and then I can kind of fine tune things if I want to. And then your flow and opacity are going to control like how severe you take something out. So if I have it at 100 and 100 and I come here on my mask layer and I paint it, it's taking that part of that image away. So now I can see my background through there. If I change my mind and I don't like what I did, so black is going to make this layer disappear. If this over here is black, you do this one, switch it to white, it comes back. Or say I just want to do it a little bit. Then I just start messing with my flow and opacity until it's something that I like. See, it doesn't take out quite as much now. Now with flow, if you have a low flow, in order to like make this more severe, you have to kind of, every time you click, it makes it darker and darker. With opacity, if you have like a really low opacity, this is the one where you're gonna scribble to make it darker and darker and darker. That took me a long time to figure out what the difference was, but there is a slight difference. It just depends if you want to kind of color and scribble, or if you just want to click, 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 click. Also, the X key is a shortcut to change from your black and white on your masks. You can click right here to change it, or you just hit X. That's your shortcut. Paint our little fog back in here. And so with this picture, I think I kind of got my background exactly how I wanted it before I started adding in the animals. So I was like, you know, playing with some of the fog and how much of it I wanted to show and where and its placement. Then we start adding in little animals. And again, it's the same thing. You just kind of, you could do on my actual giraffe picture. It's this one. Nope, that's zebra. Here's the actual giraffe picture. See, I don't like that picture, but I thought it was a really cool angle, but I didn't like the background. So I was like, all right, let's find somewhere to put this guy. You can go to select subject. And now it's actually just picked out my giraffe for me. So I don't have to like paint out all of this background. It's going to already do that. And I do my move tool. And there it is. And then again, it's Control T to start the transformation of that selection. And then just kind of, you know, figure out where I wanted to place it. Here on this layer, now I'm going to add my mask. And I want to paint out some of it. I'm still in the move tool. That's why this is all still selected. To change that, you have to go over here into your brush. And I'm sure there's a shortcut to get to the brush. I just don't know what it is. I think Ryan does. He knows all the shortcuts. I take the long way out. So then I come here on my mask. Make sure that you're clicked on the mask when you start painting. Because if you are on this part, if you're on the actual image and you start painting, this is going to paint that image right there. It's painting the image white. That's not reversible. That's actually painting the image. Make sure you're clicked on your mask. And that's actually just masking it. Let's see, now for that one, I want to take away a lot more, a lot quicker. So I boost some things. Just start taking it out. And then once you get into here with like that detail, that's when I come in and make my brush really small. And then I zoom in, make your brush small, come in here. I don't need that there, go away. And start doing your kind of your fine details. Now for this kind of stuff, I have been doing it with a computer and a mouse. And I recently got a tablet and it's made all the difference. especially because I'm left-handed, and doing this with a mouse is not very natural for me. And I recently got a new tablet to do it, and oh my God, it changed everything. I was like, whoa, I have a pen and I'm using my dominant hand. I can get crazy details now. So you just come in here and kind of, like I said, get into the details. Where do I really want that image to come to? And once I zoom out, how much of it can you actually tell? If I don't get all the details, how much of it is anybody going to notice? So I'll take that one away since we already have our giraffe there. Now, to delete any layer, if you did something, you don't like it, this is the beauty of layers. If you don't like it, right click, delete. See you later. No harm, no foul. And you just start over with that same layer. Or, you know, if you just didn't like, it wasn't working out for you, just delete it. And everything else that you've done is still there. Now here's your little zebra. And so when you add a new layer, like you saw that one, it just calls it layer 2. When you start getting into this many layers, it's very helpful to label them and give them a name so that you can easily identify them. If I had just left all of these what their default is, it'd be like layer 1 and mask 1, layer 2, layer 3, and then you got like, wait, what is that one again? So give them a name and you just double click right there on the name and you can change whatever you call it. And like I said, I knew I wanted to get a reflection, so my zebra reflection. To get that, I'm going to start here on my zebra layer, and I'm actually clicked on the layer itself, not on the mask at the moment. And then I'm going to do select subject. And now I'm just going to do a copy and paste. And there it is. Then I took it and flipped it. Played with kind of some angles here. Get it, you know, where it looks kind of similar in scale. Okay, so to get it where, if you notice, this one is kind of, it's not like an exact mirror image. To do so, you go to this little button right here. This changes it where you can actually kind of warp it. So I click on that and now I can go whoop and change kind of perspectives and warp it. And let's just say that's good. Once you like it, you do a check mark. And then to get it how it looks more like a reflection, it's kind of see-through. Go up here, change this opacity of this layer, or in the fill and opacity do a little bit different things. And just kind of get it however you like it. Keep playing around. That's really how I figured most of it out, was just trying different things and playing around. All right, so I'm going to delete that one now because then I brought in an elephant running through the field. And I had a lion, and I thought he looked kind of cool hiding out over here in the fog. So now this one says stamp. Once I got to this part where I had all of these animals and my background, a stamp, what it does is it takes all of these layers and makes them one. But instead of flattening the whole image, that is another thing you can do. If you flatten the whole thing, though, you lose all of these layers and your ability to edit each individual layer. It becomes one image. A stamp, you still keep all of these and pretty much makes one layer that is now a flattened version of these. So for instance, if I take all of these away where you can't see them anymore, it still looks the exact same. But if I take that one away, I have nothing now. But this way, I can still go back and do like any fine-tune edits on these layers. They're not combined into one image. I can still like change my masks and stuff here. So I stamped it, and I wanted to make some dust flying up so it looked like the elephant was running. So on this one, I actually painted, I didn't use a mask, I actually painted on the image itself. So like if I put all these back, now they're visible. When the eyeball is white, it means that layer is visible. There's where my dust came in. Now to do this, I go over here on my paintbrush tool. Now for my color, I click right here, and it gives me this little dropper to pick my color, and I picked out just a dirt color. That one, sure. Made my brush a bit bigger. Turn these guys down so that it's not like a severe splotch of brown. And then paint around. Made me some dust. And the thing is, there was some up in there too. Now what I've just done, the only way I can get rid of where I've painted on that layer at this point is to undo. And in Photoshop, it only keeps a certain amount of your moves because of all of the data and how big the file would be if it had to keep all of your moves. That's why the layers and masks are so great, because you don't have to undo everything. You can just delete it and start over without ruining all of your progress. Like these, I can just undo. But to like actually paint it in like color like that, you do have to paint on the image. The masks are great for the blending things together. So then once I had my whole composite image here, I wanted to pull it all together so that it all looked like one cohesive image instead of so obviously different ones. Oops. So this is where once I have that whole image and it's been stamped and everything, what I did is I just duplicate that layer, and then whatever kind of filter I end up using, I rename the layer based on that. But you want to make a copy of that stamp layer so that all those inside layers get the same adjustment. So now I have a new layer, and your filter gallery, this is one of my secret favorite tools. It's just taking it a minute to come up. Now you have all of these really cool things that just make your picture look different. You have like artistic ones. I think for the next one I did was like accented edges or something. I play around with these all the time just to see what kind of effect they're going to have. See, and I'll do something like that. I'll be like, yeah, I don't like that. Let's try something else. All right, kind of like that. Kind of made it look like a watercolor. So whenever you get it to something that you kind of like, you just say, okay. Oh, look, I did use dry brush up here anyways. And then I'm just going to call it whatever my filter was. I'm going to call it 2 since I already have a dry brush layer. And then even with on top of your filters, this right here is your blend mode. This is where you can, it'll change even more. And just different kind of effects. I don't know what all of these mean technically. I know they all have technical meanings. I still don't understand all their technical meanings, so I just play around until I like what it's doing. Okay, so now I'm going to put these once. All right, now we got some of those. Then another thing you can even do then is play with where they're located and where each layer is located and how that changes the image itself. And also the opacity and fill of the actual filter. And then I put in a curves layer because I kind of wanted it all to look similar and like, you know, the highlights and the shadows and the darks and everything. Make it, again, kind of pull it together as one cohesive unit. And then, like I said, I just kind of play around them with filters, adding new layers, adding new filters, and playing with their opacity and fill, and then kind of like where they are on here. Like, let's do that up there. Until I get it something that I like. Any questions, anybody? Everybody's so quiet. Oh, I see everybody's muted.
Filter gallery is one of my favorite toys.
Me too. I love it.
I use that a lot, and then I go through all the different types, you know, like vivid color or dodge and burn, and just see what cool effects pop up.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, that's once you have kind of those basics, there's just so much you can do. And there's still, like I said, I'm certainly not an expert. Ryan knows way more about Photoshop than I do, but it's just not like his thing that he likes to do. He doesn't necessarily like to do all the composites. It's just, I like to see what new and creative things I can come up with. And I was having a debate with him the other day about a photo, and I was like, that's done in Photoshop. And he's like, no, that's a real photo. And I was like, no, it's done in Photoshop. And we just kept on, and I was like, you know what? That's what makes it an even better photograph, is that you can't tell. Any questions or anything? Anything you want me to go over again? Because, I mean, that's pretty much all I got.
When you overlaid the first image, you dragged, I guess you opened up one and then you dragged another one on top of the name of it
Mm-hmm.
at the top. Is that right?
Yes. Hang on. I'll do one for you real quick so you can see.
Okay, thanks.
All right, we'll do this little guy here. And so on this one, I'm gonna so you want to click on your move tool to actually move it. And then you're in this picture, in this tab with this picture. You're moving it, hold it here until this picture opens, then bring it here and let go of your cursor.
Okay, and then you do the Control T to modify it.
Yes.
Kristin, how did you, I can see that you took the photo through a chain link fence. Did you have to edit it to get rid of that? Or is when it selects the subject, does it do away with it?
Let's see here. It didn't do away with it there. You can see it's still there a little bit.
Ah, okay. Because with one of the others, it looked like that you couldn't see it, which I thought was really nice.
Mm-hmm.
I probably took it out. I think for this one, that's why I made it so small.
Ah, okay.
That's why I made that line so small, because it was more difficult to take that out in the fur.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, was there another one that one doesn't have the fence? That one does. So this one has the fence, but all of this stuff down here, I took out because
Okay.
I didn't want, because that is the background on the other picture that shows through there right here.
Right. Okay. I was just curious about that. That's a neat technique to choose choose a subject. I hadn't seen that before.
Yeah, it makes things a little bit easier, so you don't have to, like I said, you don't have to paint out as much. Now, if your subject is really, really detailed or had like all this fur here, it is a little bit easier than, so I'll do select subject and then I'll still paint out a bunch of that.
Sure. Okay.
Once it selects the subject, can you adjust that dashed line before you actually move it?
Yes. Let's do. See where it's got it turns into little scissors right there? No, that's not the right one. There is a way to. But see, this is one of those things I have to play around with a little bit. Let's try this one. I think it's because I was on this tool. If I'm not on the move tool. I can't remember exactly.
I guess what I was wondering is can you drag any of the outline in one direction or another to increase or decrease the amount selected?
You can. And I think it's just because I'm on this move tool that it's not letting me. And I'm not sure what the exact tool is to do that. Let's see, this is where I would call Ryan. I would say, Ryan, what's that tool? What's that tool I need to decrease my subject? And he would tell me that because he knows that. So I said, I'm not the expert. I just play around. But there is a tool, and I think it's the selection tool. I know it's just, hang on. Let's see if this helps. Yeah, it's still on my move tool. Yeah, this is what I would call him. I would say, what is that tool I need to change my subject line? Because there is a tool to do that. But I can't even go get him now because I can hear the saws in the garage. He's doing some lapidary work on some stones. But yes, there is a way.
Okay.
See, all the stuff in here, there's so much that I just end up playing with, figuring out what it does. And that's honestly how I learned really anything in Photoshop. We found a YouTube channel. It's called Pix Imperfect, Pix Imperfect. And the guy who teaches that, he is an amazing teacher. And he even has like one of his first tutorials is Photoshop for beginners. I started with that, and he was just an incredible teacher. And so now any kind of any just little advice I want, you can go to his channel and just like look up whatever the subject is. And so Mr. Umesh, he is a great teacher. You got any questions, he'll guide you in the right direction on YouTube.
What was his name?
Unmesh.
Can you go back to the overall scene?
Oh, yeah.
So if you, like on the mountains, if you flipped that, would the shadows and the highlights flip as well? So like the sun would always be coming in from the right. Like, how do you adjust for the sun and the shadows, or do you worry about that?
I haven't worried about that much yet, but that was something that Shelley pointed out in this particular picture, and it was something I had noticed after it was all done too.
Okay.
One other thing that I have recently noticed was the direction of the reflections here and the zebra aren't necessarily in the right, like the reflection of my zebra isn't necessarily the same reflection direction as that. Again, it's one of those things where I look at it and I'm like, is anybody really gonna notice that? I might notice it now, but I'm like, is anybody really gonna notice that?
Right.
Like the lighting, like I said, that was something I noticed completely afterwards. I was like, dang, look at this picture I did. And I was like so proud of it. And then I was like, oh man, there's a little bit of lighting flaws.
Like the elephant. If you flip the elephant, what would happen? What would happen to the lighting? Would it like flip it like, you know,
Yeah.
left, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, it's not gonna do anything because currently because of this. Because all my stamps.
Right.
I gotta get rid of those. See, this is why I like to stamp it and not have it all flattened, because then I could try things like that.
Right.
Did it do anything good for you?
Well, it flipped the mountain. There you go. So now, yeah, so now the mountain, the sun's coming from the right, where before it was coming from the left. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, all right.
And then I would have to do like another stamp here
Sure, right.
and just kind of remember what I've done there. But again, it's all still reversible and workable.
Right.
The other thing that you can do, and I've only played with it a little bit, is put all these back. Render different lighting effects.
Mm.
I've done that a little bit with portraits to get the light where I want it on like a face or something if it wasn't a great portrait to begin with.
Sure.
So this will just kind of makes like a spotlight that you can kind of move around. Yeah, I'm not really sure what all it's doing, but I have played around with the lighting effects before. So that's also another thing you could kind of play with if the lighting all isn't correct. And honestly, I think on this one, what I actually noticed, the only lighting that isn't cohesive is this little bit here on the elephant, but everything else seems to be coming from over here. Because I did actually take out a big part of the sun and stuff right here so that it made it, because the sun was right here, and I took it out so that it looked more like it was coming from over here. Yeah, right here was where you can see a little bit of what was over there. It's not completely how it was, but, and I took it away. The other little tool on here that is quite helpful is, let's see, I would go, let's say, right here. I'm just gonna circle this, and then I go to content aware fill. This is great for any like little specks or just kind of little flaws. Oh, well, it's not gonna let me do it, but the content aware fill is a great tool.
Can you explain what that tool does again? I didn't follow.
Yeah, give me 1 second. I'm gonna see if I can find something. Here, I'll do it on here. Like, see, here's a little speck right here.
Okay.
A little lens speck, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna circle it. You can do it fancier than that, but I'm usually pretty sloppy because I'm left-handed and I'm using a mouse. So here's your little preview of what it would look like. You can, and if it doesn't look like how you want it to, you can play with kind of these settings.
Okay.
I like to put it on the current layer, not like make a new layer because I want it to fix this picture. And then, did you see it disappear?
Yeah. All right. Cool. Good.
And then if you do Control D, it deselects it so that you lose your little selection lines.
Okay.
Did everybody get that? Anybody want me to do it again? Mhm. I tend to have dirty lenses. I'm not the best at cleaning them, and I flop around in the dirt, and then so I find little lens specks all the time. That's what I get for getting hand-me-down equipment. Anything else?
No, I think that was very good.
I like how you pulled it all together at the end by manipulating some of the global features.
Mm-hmm.
Can you show how you set up the stamp layer again?
Yes. So I'm gonna make all of these invisible right now. And so whatever is visible is going to be part of your stamp. So even if you have more layers down here, if they're not visible, they're not going to be part of your stamp. Like for instance, let's say that I don't want zebra. I just want his reflection because I'm crazy. There's not an actual long way to make a stamp. I'm not sure why, but you hit Control Alt Shift E. And why isn't it making me a stamp? There we go. Okay, get rid of that one. Go right here on top of those. Not sure. It's not making me a stamp for just these for some reason. Maybe because I already have it stamped. Probably because I already have it stamped right here. But whatever you have is visible is going to be part of your stamp.
Did you say Control Alt Shift E as in Edward?
Yes.
Okay.
And I have searched and searched for the actual long way to do it because, like I said, I just got a tablet and it doesn't have control on like the on the keypad on the screen, and I could not figure it out. So I'm gonna have to do some Googling and searching. The only thing it would let me do the long way is flatten it completely. Right here, if you do flatten image, but there wasn't one right here to do stamp. But I love the stamp tool. Control Alt Shift E. Anybody else? Any questions? Anything else you want me to try and go over?
We've got to all go and take some images and try to play with it ourselves now.
Yes, indeed. I think it's so much fun. I can just like, I'll get lost in hours just like playing around and then hating the final product and not even using it. But you know, that's how I learned how to do it.